If I'm talking to, 10 people, that's one level of enthusiasm and energy that I'm bringing to it. If I'm talking to 3,000 people, I need to bump it up. It has nothing to do with my microphone.
Hello and welcome to Fierce and Flawless, the Female Project. I am Dr. Antonella Kaler, and I am on a mission to find out exactly what it takes to build an indestructible foundation and achieve our best reality. I am thrilled to bring you stories of inspiring women who were fierce and relentless when pursuing their passions, who did not blame their struggles on so-called character flaws, and who took control to lead extraordinary lives. If you're a woman who is tired of feeling like your life is merely a product of cause and effect, and you are ready to be the woman that causes the effect, keep listening to learn the necessary insights to navigate life's toughest challenges, break through the most disheartening plateaus, and unleash your inner alpha woman. And don't forget, you have the exclusive opportunity to win our Alpha Empowerment Book Bundle. It's 3 life-changing books whose authors you heard speak on the show and a 12-week wellness program by me. So please visit www.thefemaleproject.net/podcast to find out exactly what you need to do to participate. So good luck and thank you for listening. Hello, Alphas, and welcome to another episode of Fierce and Flawless, the Female Project. Today, I was very lucky to sit down with Frances Cole Jones, the author of How to Wow and the Wow Factor. Frances was featured in Time magazine, voted at one of the top 100 websites for women by Forbes. She was a guest on ABC, Fox News. She's a body language expert for The Insider and a job interview expert for About.com. Frances gives us some unbelievable tips on how to get that personal edge, tells us why the color blue is our best friend, and lets us in on the biggest unconscious mistake women make in job interviews. I am so excited to bring you a jam-packed episode with brilliant advice by an unbelievable alpha woman, Frances Cole Jones.
Oh, how are you? How's your mother? Is she okay?
Oh yeah, we just needed to get her flu shots in order. So she's really grumpy and not very happy with me. But it's important. We're very big on making sure that everybody's, kind of all medically checked up and ready to go. So when they called us and said they had to bump us, and I'm a person that's really one of my pet peeves is tardiness. So I wanted to make sure that, I wasn't late for this. So thank you very much for changing things last second.
I get it. I'm the same way. It's a conversation I have with people a lot. I'm like, what does punctuality mean to you? Because to me, it means 10 minutes early.
Yes, exactly. And I have actual anxiety if I think that I'm not going to make it. So I would rather email and, set up a time that I know 100% is not going to be an issue than rush back. And then I'm that person that I'm always annoyed with. That's like, we said this time, where are you? So I would absolutely love to know how your life has led you to this path. You have so many amazing projects on the go right now. So if you could share with the audience how you found your passion and how you ended up in this line of work, and maybe explain a little bit more about what it is exactly that you do as well.
I started as a book editor. And we used to bring in media trainers to work with my authors. And I looked at that for a little bit and I thought, I can do it, but better. Which is something that, is my normal way of moving through the world. But for whatever reason, this just made sense to me. As an editor, what you do is you take people's disjointed manuscripts and you ensure that what shows up on the page is the best version of themselves. And then this is what I do with my clients as well. I'll sit with them and say, how can you communicate as your best self? Because there's no point in, for me writing something that someone else reads as a speech that doesn't sound like them. Mm-hmm. So I need you to sound like you, but you on your best day, when everything is flowing and you have the answer to every question. Yes. So
Would you say that you see kind of a common shortcoming and something that people particularly struggle with when it comes to being their best selves?
There are a few things that we overlook. One of the easiest ones to think about is, the tendency to fall back on what's known in my business as the useless modifier. Because studies show that people remember stories longer, they trust them more, and they repeat them more accurately. Mm-hmm. So if you just have a super short story for everything from this is why you should buy this product, to this is, when someone says to you in your job interview, so tell me about yourself. And you say, I'm a really great leader. I just really like to lead. I like leading people.
Sure.
And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So you need to tell me why. You need to give me the because. You need to give me the reason. And without that, then everything you say just kind of flows over me and I can't retain anything. And also, I don't really believe you. So just beginning to help people understand about the value of storytelling. Mm-hmm. And an easy homework assignment or a great way to think about this is if you watch any of the cooking shows, because, we can't smell the food and we can't taste the food. So I do a lot of work with chefs for this reason. But you'll notice now if you watch, the people are always saying, the smell of these cookies baking reminds me of sitting on my grandma's back porch. And then by the time the show's over, you either want to bake the cookies or you want to call your Nana, but something's happened in your brain.
What are I'd say your would be your number one piece of advice for somebody who's ready to kind of follow the outline and bring their best self? What is something that is an absolute must no matter what line of work you're in?
I think that it's fine-tuning your listening skills, because there is what's being said to you, and then there's usually the subtext that you're not hearing. So, for example, if you're fine-tuning that listening skill, when someone says to you, it's really important to me for everyone I know to be punctual, to not just internalize that and say, okay, I'm going to put it in the frame of reference of what does that mean for me. Punctual is like I'm punctual if I'm within 15 minutes of being on time. And whereas, as you and I discussed, punctuality means you're 10 minutes early.
Yes, but I know that I'm a little bit neurotic when it comes to that kind of thing. So I try to be reasonable with other people.
I think that we need to begin to listen and say, okay, but what does that look like? And I think that those are the kinds of interesting questions that expand our listening and help us really get to the core of what someone else values or what it is that they're saying.
Would you see a common theme in people and something that people really, really struggle with maybe their confidence or with how to answer their own questions?
I mean, I think when people think about speaking in front of a group, the number one thing that they struggle with is nervousness. And we somehow have this idea that nervousness is bad. To me, nervousness is really important. It just means you care. It's you saying, gosh, I really want to do well at this. So rather than trying to stuff the nervousness down, which just makes us come across as either kind of too cool for school or really monotone, my request is always really welcome that nervousness and say, oh my goodness, this is excellent. I'm nervous. I really care about doing well. I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure I do well, but don't stuff that down. Just use it as energy.
Now, for public speaking, of course, there's so many things involved. There's not just the content, but there's the gesturing, the pitch of your voice, the pace, everything that you're kind of trying to deliver with your message. Now, do you have any types of tips of how to practice if you have an important speech coming up? Should you break those things apart? Should you tape yourself and then watch it and see if you're looking silly? What is your usual recommendation for somebody who's maybe struggling with nervousness or struggling with presenting, getting up in front of a crowd, and how they're carrying themselves, or they're having really busy hands? They don't know what to do with their hands. They're kind of not sure how they're pacing. Do you have a kind of a framework of what to look for when you're trying to practice for an important presentation?
Yes. Well, the first thing you do is, as you're putting the presentation together, you want to say to yourself, why do I care about this? Why is it so important to me for people to have this information? But then the next most important question is, why should they care about this? Because, if your audience doesn't care, you really aren't going to get anywhere. So how can you reassure them from the get-go that this is something that's going to make their life better? That this is going to really enhance or entertain or, inform them in a way. So you have those questions answered. Then the other thing I want people to do is I do want you to practice out loud. But one thing I do not recommend is, people always say, oh, go stand in front of the bathroom mirror. And I just think that's a nightmare. I don't want to look at myself in the mirror. So what I do, but I think it could often be helpful, practice out loud while you're walking kind of from point A to point B. So if you have to walk to your office in the morning, if you walk as part of your commute, if your exercise is to walk or to run, just practice out loud while you're doing that. Because we can think that we know how we're going to get from point A to point B in our presentation, but it's only when it's coming out of our mouth that we realize, like, I have a plot hole. I have no idea what the transition is, but your brain glosses over that until you try to do it out loud. So but the other useful piece about the walking is that it then embeds what you're saying in your body in a kinesthetic way, so that when you are nervous, you can pull it up again more easily. So practice out loud while you're walking is great. And then, yes, once you've got that done and you've done that a few times, then sure, videotape yourself and play it back, just to make sure that so you can fine tune your animation and look at, the gestures or whatever it is, so that you make sure that you have an interesting looking, that your face remains animated while you're speaking.
Do you find that people need to be almost a little bit over dramatic when they're presenting, like a little bit more exaggerated than how if they were saying the same thing to a friend in a more informal kind of situation to keep the audience's engagement?
Yeah, I think you need to, you want to gauge it. So if I'm talking to, 10 people, that's one level of enthusiasm and energy that I'm bringing to it. If I'm talking to 3,000 people, I need to bump it way up. And it has nothing to do with my microphone. It has to do with, literally how much of myself I am going to. So it's beginning to gauge, and then the other piece is in person, you can have one level of animation, but if, you do any kind of, maybe a job interview via Skype or any kind of FaceTime, anything like that, it flattens the personality. So you have to be that much more animated in those situations.
Now, do you find that for job interviews, for example, for something like Skype, do you give people different sort of tips on how to do that versus an in-person interview?
It really, for a virtual interview, it comes down to a lot of physical, mechanical things. You want to put your screen slightly higher than your face, and then tilt the screen down toward you, because everybody just looks better from that angle. Blue is the color we trust the most, and it photographs best. So if you can wear blue, that's the dream. Within the possible shades of blue, it's that kind of French blue or cornflower blue that looks so pretty on camera. So I recommend, whether it's traffic court or a job interview, that level, that shade of blue is going to be your friend. You need to clean up what's behind you. It's shocking to me. I've seen people do interviews in front of kind of dead ficus trees and overflowing baskets, which does not reassure me that you're an organized person.
Sure.
I was at a conference the other day, and this person Skyped in their presentation with their phone ringing and the window open and traffic outside and light on their. It was just wow.
Chaos. Yeah.
It was chaos.
Wow. Now, speaking of presentations, do you have, what are your next projects that are coming up? Do you have anything that you're publishing? Any programs that you want to talk about? What's next in store?
Well, I do. I've just this last month, taken a break. I have a weekly newsletter called The Wow of the Week, because the books I've written are How to Wow and The Wow Factor and Wow Your Way into the Job of Your Dreams. But I also have this weekly newsletter called The Wow of the Week. I actually took a 1-month hiatus this past month. And I'm starting again tomorrow, which is so nice. I really miss doing it because I've been doing it without a break for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I really, right now, I'm most excited to getting back to that kind of weekly communication with everybody that, that I, hear from and communicate with. Whenever I go on a speaking tour or do something like this, I say, if you can go to my website and sign up for the Wow of the Week, then really whatever's happening with me or with my clients, if I find a good solution to a problem, that's what I send out. So yes, that's what I'm excited about right now.
Now, what's usually in the Wow of the Week? Is it kind of like a case problem solving, general advice? What do we expect when we get this?
It really is, whatever's been going on. Like if someone's written me and they've had a situation at work with their boss and they didn't know how to handle it, and I think, wow, that's something that a lot of people might benefit from having this information. Or someone's had a job interview, or somebody's has a problem with their coworker. Really, whatever rolls in over the transom that catches my eye and my fancy, or if something's going on with me, I've handled the situation well or badly, I let you all in on it. So yes, those kinds of things.
Oh, that's wonderful. Is there anything for things like presentations or like public speaking that we mentioned, or job interviews that are a little bit more female specific that maybe as women we need to keep in mind to not forget to do, or something that, is a common flaw, or something that, might come off and rub people the wrong way? Any kind of thing that's we're a little prone to doing that maybe we shouldn't be doing?
One of the things that I have learned that it's important to be aware of is that women tend to feel we all kind of talk over each other. And so, for instance, you could say to me, I got a latte, and I'd be like, oh my God, I got a latte, right? So it's just this constant talking over each other all day long, and we don't even notice that we do it. We're constantly affirming each other and, chatting. And if you sit and you listen and you watch, actually, because it's usually more of a visual, gentlemen don't do that. They tend to, if you notice two men having a conversation, it's fascinating. One will talk and 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 talk. And you can feel the anxiety arising in your body. You're like, I need to affirm him. I need to let him know he's on the right track. I need to whatever. But the gentleman he's talking to will just be standing there, just listening, not saying a word. And then one finishes, and then gentleman chum starts talking. And bless them, this is the way men are wired. They're wired to. They actually want to listen to us. They're listening because they're like, how can I help? And so I think one of the things that women need to be aware of, we tend to talk over each other, and it makes it very difficult sometimes for men. So what I usually recommend, if you are interacting with any type of man, whether it's your husband or your boss or your teenage son, just let them talk for far, far longer than is probably going to feel comfortable for you.
without contributing anything, just let them out. Let them talk it out.
And you can smile and you can nod. You can do all kinds of nonverbal affirming, but just to let that sit. It can actually be really life-changing, because if you wait long enough, all kinds of stuff starts coming up that you had no idea that was going to be there. So that's one thing. And then the other place that I think it's really important for women to think about using just silence is if you are ever in a negotiation. It happens a lot I see it with salary negotiations. Someone will say to us, what are you looking for? And we'll say, well, I'm looking for something in the range of X to Y. And then we barely let that settle, and we say, but I totally understand if that's a problem. Sure. And so we start doing other people's negotiating for them. So yes, it's that. And again, here's another place I recommend people practice out loud, is just to state your number or your request and then just sit there and deal with the physical discomfort of it. So yeah, practicing out loud ahead of time is super useful there, because you'll notice the tension rising in your body.
I'm just mentally imagining myself in that situation and I'm getting anxious.
Right? You go right to wanting to fix it for the other person.
Yes.
So yes.
Wow, that is definitely something that I will need to practice, because I am the kind of person that if I'm in the middle of a conversation and there's a silence, I have this innate psychological need to fill it with my voice.
Right, because women we tend to move very quickly and verbally when we speak. But really and truly, that it doesn't serve us well in a lot of situations. Just you ask the question or make the request and then do nothing. And just, again, and I literally have to say to myself, I count backward 15, 4. Because I will notice that I want to, as you say, fill every silence. So yes.
I was actually thinking about the counting. I'm like, I'm going to need to start counting in my head to have that feeling that at least I'm actively doing something, because of course those 15 seconds are going to feel like an eternity if you're just sitting in silence with another person while they're trying to make a decision. It's a lot harder to do than it sounds.
It's so hard to do. And, I give an example a lot, which is, I have a client who he's on QVC, which is, the quality value channel, whatever it is, the shopping network here in the United States. And it was one of the hardest things in the world for me to teach him, which is to talk over, because QVC is completely set up for ladies who are calling in and buying 10,000 pounds of stuff during the day. Sure. So, the hosts are talking about the product, and then the person who's invented the product is talking about the product, and people are calling in with testimonials, and it's just talk. And so what would happen was, he's a doctor, and people will be calling in and being like, oh my goodness, Dr. So-and-so, I love your product so much, and blah, 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 blah. And they would go on, and he would just stand there and listen to them the whole time they were talking without saying anything. And this is bad TV.
Sure.
Right? So yeah. I had to teach him to talk over people and be like, oh, thank you so much. It's so nice of you to call in. And he still looks super uncomfortable when he tries to do it, but it's better.
That's wonderful, wonderful advice. Thank you so much. So I usually pester all of my guests with the same question at the very end, and that is if there is a book that had an impact on you and your life that you would like to recommend for our audience.
My favorite book in the world is Franny and Zoe by J.D. Salinger. And I read it, it's when my teens, and I come back to it at least once a year. I find not only is the writing exquisite, but this story is so beautiful and so helpful to at least me. In terms of digging down to or reminding myself of the humanity of everybody, literally every single human being that you end up interacting with. So it's my favorite choice.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that and for all of the wonderful advice that you have given us. It's a lot of it resonated with me because I know I'm guilty of so many of those things that you mentioned.
Well, again, it's so interesting is it's like it's unconscious. It was brought to my attention. And when somebody did, I was like, oh my God, you're absolutely right. So I think it's just, yes, as we become more aware, the more you know, the better you do, or whatever the phrase is. So yes.
Is there anything else, any final words that you want to share with the audience? Anything about your programs or just any messages whatsoever? It's open mic time for the last couple of minutes.
The thing that I like, or that I have on my website, an ask a question button. Mm-hmm. And so at the end of anything like this, I send to people an invitation from me to just go on my website. If you have anything going on in your life with that I might be able to be helpful with, shoot me a note, because all of the questions I get roll directly to my phone, and I do answer everybody. And it's a great joy for me. So yes, if anybody's got anything going on, from, you've got a situation with your boss or your coworker, or, another parent in your kid's class, or your friend asked you for a loan and you don't know how to tell them no, like, I'm happy to help. Because it's a great fun for me. So yes. And if I recommend for many people, regardless of the industry you're in, having an ask a question button on your website, as long as someone is manning it and actually answering the questions, it's such an easy way to build goodwill and to really build trust with your customer base. Because when I write people back and I take the time and send them a long answer to something, they write back and they say, we didn't even believe that you were real. This is amazing. So yeah. Ask a question button is a super fun and useful tool.
Wonderful. Thank you. And of course, we're going to have all of the resources available with the episode, with the links to the website and kind of a little bit of instructions of how people can reach you and reach out to you. And like you said, you're actually surprisingly easy to get a hold of. Even I was surprised you responded back so quickly. I was like, wow. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Frances, for taking the time and sharing some of these amazing pieces of advice with us. It was a pleasure having you.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much.
Hey Alphas, it's Dr. Antonella from Fierce and Flawless, the Female Project. I cannot wait to bring you more incredible stories and exceptional insights from women who made an impact. So join me on this journey. Subscribe and comment with nominations for guests you would like featured next. I want to deliver content that ignites a spark in you, so your feedback is extremely important to me. To connect with me and to get the resources mentioned in this episode, visit www.thefemaleproject.net or add me on Instagram at dr.antonella. Thank you for listening and stay tuned.